Today, our speaker is someone who has been absent to us for a long 6 days. For me, it's been a little longer because I wasn't here last Sunday. Please welcome once again to our hearts, homes, our home, and ears, Reverend Pam Reynolds.
Thank you. It's very powerful to speak out this commitment every Sunday, individually and as a community. Your theme for the year, would you speak it with me, please? The Art of Abundance, a year for courage, creativity, and commitment. And every word, every thought is a prayer. So as we speak those words, we are making that commitment to ourselves to make this a year of abundance, which does not just mean money. Abundance of creative ideas, abundance of guidance, abundance of health, all those things that we most desire. This is a year of abundance. Well, I remember 25 years ago. Do you remember what you were doing 25 years ago? Oh, yeah, I do too. I was first year in seminary in the ministerial education program at Unity Village. And that was the first year that we really did a World Day of Prayer. Yeah, that was new then. Apparently, the year before, Reverend Earl Anderson had tasked his prayer class with coming up with a way to get people together in prayer. And I think they did it on sort of a small scale, but the year that I was in school, that first year, we took it bigger. And that was the year that we did candlelight vigil, that we did 24-hour vigil, that we gathered around the fountain, held hands in prayer. This Thursday, therefore, is the 25th World Day of Prayer. It's going to feature live music, a candlelight vigil, live stream prayer service, and a sacred prayer circle. Now the vigil begins Wednesday, September 11, that's Central Time, 2-hour difference, with a candlelight walk to the Silent Unity Chapel following the opening ceremony. So even though we are not physically at Unity Village, Kansas City, you can be there virtually. And in fact, if you go to the unity.org website and look for World Day of Prayer, there is a way for you to light a virtual candle, rather than one, in my case, that dripped all over my shoes. I remember that well in 2015. It was like, could we hurry this up, please? Because it's all over my hand and my feet. I was getting a little wax of baptism. This year, their theme and their affirmation is infinite presence, unlimited potential. Doesn't that sort of go with what we've been saying here? And the affirmation is, I celebrate the vast possibilities for my life. Remember that Jesus said, pray believing. Is that a little too biblical or Jesus-y for you? You okay with that? Yeah, pray believing. Well, in modern day language, we have Neville Goddard, who went by Neville, Wayne Dyer, and even Stephen Covey, who all taught us to pray as if your prayer has already been answered. Stephen Covey said, begin with the end in mind. They're all saying the same things. Pray believing. It's done. It's complete. It's finished. It's yours, whatever it is. And we pray for big things. We pray for little things. I love to read the older Unity newsletters, magazines, because Charles Fillmore started out, Myrtle started out praying. He started out writing and sending this newsletter out. And people would send in their prayer requests to Silent Unity in the early days. And one of my favorites was a woman who wrote in. Now you got to remember, this is like 1910s, maybe 1920s. She's writing for help because her basement is infested with mice. And she's asking for them to please pray to get rid of the mice. Well, actually, she wrote back later and said, it worked. Well, I'm thinking they created such a vibration. And in fact, I just saw something on television or some ad where they've got a new rodent repeller that works on vibration. And I said, well, what is prayer but raised vibration? The mice took off. It wasn't comfortable for them. People also wrote in, and think about this being 10s, 20s, and 30s, writing in, 30s as in depression and earlier, husbands that were terminally ill, husbands that needed jobs, family members that were sick or dying. Silent Unity prays for all those requests, the big ones, the small ones. But isn't that what our life is about? The little mundane stuff, like I need to get rid of the mice, to my spouse is terminally ill. And it ranges the whole gamut of emotions and feelings and challenges. Way before there was a hurricane warning system, 1928, September 16th in Florida. Now we just watched on the news, Hurricane Dorian, approaching, going through the Bahamas, approaching Florida, and then we get to watch as they predict, is it going to hit Carolinas, is it going to hit this, is it going to hit that? We're used to that now. But in 1928, they didn't have hurricane warning systems. And they certainly didn't have a 24-hour news cycle where you're watching it all the time. The rain and the wind were so extreme that it breached a 9-foot mud dike around a lake. Water began to surge around the home of Charles and Lucinda and their 3 boys. And at the same time that the water is coming in, surging into their house, the roof of their house is blown off. They grabbed their 3 children and went outside, because at that point outside seemed safer than inside, looking for a place to shelter. What they saw was an old tree that they figured had been there through many, many, many storms. They climbed the tree with their 2 children. Lucinda had 1, Charles had 2. They climbed up. The water kept rising. They climbed up higher until they were basically at the top of that tree. They were doing all they could to hold the children's heads above water. Charles is yelling, "Cindy, we're going to die. We're going to die." Lucinda said, "Be quiet, Charles. We are not going to die this night. No matter what it looks like, God is up here in this tree with us. Just hold on to those children." One part of us says, it's never going to work. Another part of us says, hang on, believe, have faith. It's not going to work. Have faith. It's not going to work. Have faith. The storm continued to rage. It got worse. At one point, Charles slipped and almost lost the 2 boys. Lucinda reaches down and grabs the boys, pulls them up. So she's now holding on to 3 kids. Charles is saying, the end is near. Lucinda, the end is not near. Of course, as a mom, she's thinking her children are hearing this too. She started singing. Finally, the clouds break and the rain and the wind stop, but it was 16 more hours before they could climb down from the tree. In Mark 11:14, we have recorded that Jesus said, "So I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." First of all, they had the desire to save their children. They took action, and they maintained their faith. 3 elements of powerful prayer are desire, action, and belief. Our desires include our hopes, our aims, our plans, whether we put them out there in the universe or not, whether we voice them or not. They include the things and conditions that we pray for. Our acts include every thought, every word, and every deed. They include our prayers and our curses, our praises and our blames, our thoughts of poverty and sickness, our compliments and our complaints. Our beliefs include all that we accept to be true, all that we think of God, other humans, and ourselves, whether it happens to be true or not. It also includes all of our fears. In your life, when these three are together, desire, action, and belief, and they synchronize, the creative force moves on our behalf according to our word, because the rules of action have been complied with. I know I said to you last week, the universe will do whatever you tell it to do. Myrtle's prayer was a heart and foundation of unity. She prayed believing because she understood the nature of God. She didn't beseech, bemoan, bewail, whine, complain, because she knew that God is not an anthropomorphic being that may or may not respond to our prayer. She knew that divine mind deals in law, and when we align ourselves with law, our prayer must be answered. It's like if I walk to the edge of this platform and step off, the law of gravity is in effect. I can't make it different. I can't change it. So I like to comply with the law of gravity on this platform, and I use the stairs. Because I know I can't change the law. So as long as we're aligning ourselves, our thoughts and our prayers, they'll be answered. So how do we not align? It's when we don't truly believe. We think our prayer is too big, or we think we're not worthy. God can't do it, it's too big, I'm not worthy, it'll never get answered. And I'm sure that Lucinda had concerns when she was up that tree. I mean, Charles did, certainly. I'm up in a tree, the wind is howling, the water's rising, and I don't see a good end to this. And we can think that about our health and about our finances and about all this other stuff that goes on in our lives. And if we focus on that, that's the outcome that we will get. What we need to do is focus on the outcome that we desire. God is not a being that's going to withhold our desires. In fact, our desires are coming from God. And we get stuck in this, we believe, we don't believe, we believe, we don't believe, back and forth. So Charles Fillmore said in Christian Healing, to pray believing that the prayer may or may not be answered at the will of God is to miss the mark. It's not God waiting out there to make a decision about whether today your prayer gets answered. Now, maybe we were taught that when we were growing up, and we have to unlearn that. We have to learn a new way of being, a new way of understanding, and really embody that in our thoughts and our actions. But we know now, as truth students, unity students, that God is law. And God will respond to our thoughts and our beliefs. And when we put our desires and our actions and our belief together, the law has to deliver to us what we are saying we need or want. You probably all know who J.C. Penney was. Many of us shop at his store even today. He was very ill, and one night a feeling washed over him that he was going to die. Now, I think he was in the hospital at the time, and he just had a feeling, this is it, this is my last night. And so he wrote letters to his children and his wife saying goodbye. When the morning came, he said he was utterly without hope. But as he lay there preparing himself for death, he heard a radio playing in another room down the hallway. A hymn was playing. God will take care of me. Happens that it's in our songbook. All I may need, he will provide. God will take care of me. Nothing I ask will be denied. God will take care of me. God will take care of me through every day or all the way. He will take care of me. He will take care of me. And that's what he heard playing. And he took those words and he decided that that was true. He experienced an inflow of power that he had never known was possible. He got new strength, new enthusiasm, new belief, new faith, and perfect health. He decided he wanted to live, so he surrendered, and the song renewed his faith. Oh, by the way, he lived until 96. And he went on living with an energy that he never had before. God will take care of me, take care of you, take care of us. It's in the very nature of that energy, of that intelligence, of that beingness. And since we are expressions, living expressions of that, I love that Paul said, in whom we live, move, and have our being. That presence in whom we live, move, and have our being is not going to decide, it's not going to wake up today and go, oh, Pam Reynolds, don't want to take care of you anymore. You're just too high maintenance, dear honey. You're just going to have to figure out another way to do it. It's in God's best interest, so to speak, to take care of us. I want to go back to Habakkuk, Old Testament. He said, the righteous live by their faith. Well, have you ever wondered what righteousness means? What does that mean? What is righteousness? It's our right use of thinking. It's our right use of thinking. In Christian healing, Charles Fillmore said, if we pray asking, we hear that, asking for future fulfillment, we form that kind of thought structure in consciousness, and our prayers are always waiting for that future fulfillment which we have idealized. That's why so often you'll hear a new thought, we talk about now. Now is the only now we have. It's the only moment we have. It's the only creative moment we have. So if we say, well, someday, well, next month, well, next year, well, tomorrow, we need to be affirming and knowing and believing right now, today. Because the universe will always match our expectations. So I want to share a fun story. One of my favorite prosperity stories, bananas. One Saturday afternoon, Caroline's mother was putting groceries away, and Caroline asked, did you get any bananas? No, but I'll get some for you on Tuesday when I get to the store again. No, but I really want them today. Picture her at like about 6 years old. No, but I want them today. Her mother followed her into the bedroom, and she found that Carolyn was on her knees praying what she thought was a pretty unorthodox prayer. Dear Jesus, I know you have lots of bananas, and I know you are willing for Mother and me to have some. So please send us a half a dozen today. Thank you. Amen. And then Caroline turned to her mother and says, how long does today last? Well, Mom said, till bedtime for you. No, I mean, tomorrow doesn't start until the night, right? Yes, 12 o'clock. I hope God sends my bananas by bedtime. But dear, it started raining and the roads are bad now, her mother said. You won't be too disappointed if you don't get them. Trying to prepare her like a mom. Caroline responded, you must not know God as I do. He won't disappoint me. He never does. You know, that faith of the child, that believing that now, believing that somehow God will work it out. At 11:15, she woke up and asked if her bananas were there yet. No, not yet. Now you go back to sleep. But it is still today, isn't it? Sometime later, Mother heard a car stop outside, and she got up and she put on a robe and went to the front door. It was their pastor. And he said, I know it seems foolish, but my wife and I were in bed, and I just had this overwhelming feeling that there was something wrong, and that I needed to come and check on you. I was worried. So we got dressed and we've driven out here to see if you're all right. And Caroline's mother says, no, nothing's wrong. Kind of have a feeling what's coming. Well, in that case, we won't come in. But oh, by the way, we were at the store today and we bought too many bananas. So we brought you a half a dozen. Mother looked at the clock. It was 7 minutes to midnight. She knew what she wanted. She prayed. She believed. So think about that the next time you're praying. Tonight, today, bananas. Well, we know, I think we know the story of James Dillett Freeman's The Prayer for Protection. In World War II, war was raging in Europe, and Unity received a lot of letters and phone calls from people asking for prayer, particularly prayer for their family and their friends, especially those that were in the military. And Silent Unity asked him to write a pamphlet that they could send to these people. And they wanted an affirmative prayer for protection on the back page. Among those, he included the verse from the 23rd Psalm. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Yeah. One of the silent workers went up to Jim and he said, if I were a woman in England and bombs were falling on my roof, or I were a soldier facing the business end of a gun, it would not be soothing to hear, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Jim, can't you do better than that? He was aghast. Was she out of her mind? What better than the 23rd Psalm? But rolling around in the back of his mind was a little verse he had written as a prayer for protection at Christmas. He took out the word Christ and inserted the word God so that it would be more acceptable to people. So the little prayer became, the light of God surrounds me, the love of God enfolds me, the power of God protects me, the presence of God watches over me. And then he decided it needed one more line, and the line was, wherever I am, God is. And we all know that because we say that. And by the way, that prayer in that form was carried to the moon 50 years ago. Remember that? Yeah, 50 years ago. That prayer is up there on the moon. But at some point, James Dillett Freeman added to the prayer. And I've given you a copy. It's on this lavender page, insert in your bulletin. A friend of mine uses this at the end of his service, and I said, Reverend Greg, I didn't know there was a long version. And he said, yes. And Reverend Greg always knows where to find the good stuff. So here's the longer version. The light of God surrounds me. In fact, you got it there? Do most of you have a copy? Or you could look over with somebody else, because I think it would be nice if we spoke this together. The light of God surrounds me. The love of God enfolds me. The power of God protects me. The presence of God watches over me. The mind of God guides me. The life of God flows through me. The laws of God direct me. The power of God abides within me. The joy of God uplifts me. The strength of God renews me. The beauty of God inspires me. Wherever I am, God is. So I invite you, if you want to, use that at home. You can use that longer version if you choose. So this Thursday, infinite presence, unlimited potential. I celebrate the vast possibilities for my life. And a reminder that in Mark 11:24, so I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. So our keywords are desire, action, and belief. So go out there and create that life that you truly desire, that God is pushing at your heart to go out and embody and empower and do. God bless. Amen.